I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com and welcome to Wrestlers of the Week. Jack is of course the normal host of this show, so if you are tuning in right now and you are very disappointed, I can only apologise. Hi Mum. That's right, Jack's on holiday sunning his arms, his legs, that little goatee that he sometimes has when he forgets to shave for a couple of months. So I will try to channel his charisma as I say, this is my favourite time of the week! Because it's Friday, and after this I get to go home and watch serial killer documentaries on Netflix in my pants. Before I start, I should make it very clear that the following 10 wrestlers have been chosen by Jack, and I am nothing more than his mouthpiece. Yes, you are! So there will be no Mick Foley, there will be no Mojo Rawley, there will be no Lou Thez, even though he had a terrific match against Akira Tozawa on this week's 205 Live. So let's start with some honourable mentions. The pathetic failures that didn't quite manage to get Jack's 5 stars. These are nothing but 4.5s on the Jack scale. The stiffometer, the bus wanking ranking. First up is Tony Nese, who picked up a good win over Drew Gulak in the main event of 205 Live this week, winning with the running Nese, which is still the worst name for a finisher since the Bailey to Belly. Nese continues to impress week in, week out on the purple brand. Next is LAX, who together won the Impact Tag titles at Rebellion. No, not the short-lived WWE UK exclusive pay-per-view, that's the name of Impact's recent big show, and it was a terrific event. Sure, Impact isn't what it once was. I would say that fewer people than ever are talking about Impact right now, which is a shame because the pay-per-views especially, they've been putting on consistently good matches for a year and a half now. This was no exception. LAX picked up the win, defeating the Lucha Bros in a Full Metal Mayhem match after Ortiz powerbombed Pentagon off a ladder, through a table, covered in thumbtacks. What a nutter. And finally, Dean Ambrose, or as he's now called, Filthy John Moxley, who set the internet alight this week in ways that we haven't seen since Coney 2012, or that time that Dirty Den got his knob out on webcam. A beautifully produced vignette, high production value, something like 1 million views in like 6 hours, everybody was sharing it, and it poses the question, where will Moxley go next? All Elite, CZ Dub, back to WWE in the stupidest swerve of all time. Stay tuned, follow him on Twitter because he needs those follows now he's not on TV every week. Anyway, it's time to award some points, so let's kick off with number 10, Kassius Ohno. Kassius Ohno is perhaps the most underappreciated wrestler in the world today. He puts on consistently good matches in NXT, NXT UK. So often he's asked to go out of his way to put over younger talent, and he does so each time so very selflessly. This week, Ohno faced Kishida in the latter's NXT debut, helping any unfamiliar fans instantly get what Kishida is all about. It was a great back and forth, entertaining match featuring some of Ohno's excellent strikes. It seems like Kassius is set in his role as the big, tough gatekeeper who always manages to make his opponent look good, but will he meet any personal success in NXT? Is it too late in his career? Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if we never see Kassius Ohno on the main roster, which in some ways would be a shame, but also you can imagine just how great it would be to have the former Chris Hero down in the Performance Center as a mentor, as a trainer for young up-and-coming talent. I would be worried if he went up to the main roster that they wouldn't know what to do with him. Moving on, it's number 9, and it's Kassius Ohno's opponent. It's none other than Kishida. 2 points for Kishida, who has now been rebranded Kush Era. A gimmick which sees him try to peddle weed, 420 Blaze It Yo to superstars backstage. I'm making this up, don't worry, he's still doing his Back to the Future shtick, thank God. A great NXT debut in front of a really hot crowd, and a big win for him submitting Ohno with his signature hoverboard lock. But in fairness, as much as Ohno put over Kishida, Kishida wasn't afraid to sell for his opponent as well, which made this even better. He was bumping all over the place, and at one point his nose was bloodied, which also added to the match. And he really demonstrated his versatility here. Bit of mat wrestling, bit of high flying, bit of striking, and finishing things off with that submission. I've seen some complaints online saying that either this match was too long, that Kishida should have just squashed him, or it was too short, that it should have been allowed to go for 20 minutes. But to me, this was a perfect introduction to Kishida, a great introduction to his character for people unfamiliar with his work, as well as the fact that it just left us wanting to see more, much more. Please don't send him to 205 Live, please. Time for number 8, and 3 points go to Tessa Blanchard. Impact Rebellion was generally a very well-received show on Sunday, and one of the better matches on the card was the veteran Gail Kim taking on the up-and-comer Tessa Blanchard, who is going to be huge in the future. There's no doubt about that. This was a clear passing of the torch, with Gail Kim putting over her younger opponent, and then at the end, I think Tessa Blanchard may have turned babyface here. The two hugged, celebrated. It was a really strong match, and Tessa Blanchard is terrific. So as Tessa and Gail hug in the ring, there are big chants from the Impact universe. Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Gail. And you know what? A late addition to the honourable mentions here, because Gail Kim is not a name that often comes up when you're talking about some of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time, but for me, she's absolutely up there. Also, I should make it clear that this match wasn't for the women's title. Instead, that match was Jordynne Grace taking on Taya Valkyrie, but with performances like this, I don't think it'll be too long before we see Tessa work her way back up and regain that title. Next up, number 7, he is 1/4 of the standout match, the main event of that Rebellion pay-per-view, the Lucha Bros taking on LAX in a Full Metal Mayhem match. It's basically TLC. His name is Pentagon Jr. Lots of exciting spots which really suited Pentagon's hardcore style. Some were saying it was a bit spot heavy, but the crowd was super into it. It was fun from start to finish, and a great choice of main event also. This is likely going to be the last time we see the Lucha Bros in Impact as they head over to All Elite, and it was good. It was a touching moment. They just have great match after great match. I can't remember the last time I saw a bad Lucha Bros match. They're really bloody good. And even though the Lucha Brothers lost their tag team titles here, they had the more impressive week overall, taking on the Dragon Gate team of Pac and Aita over in Fight Club Pro, their Dream Tag Team Invitational Tournament, Night 1, which is out now on demand. It was a full-blooded contest, one that I would definitely recommend you going and checking out. Number 6 is the partner of Pentagon Jr. It is, of course, Phoenix. From the two matches that the Lucha Brothers had this week, you would think that it would be Pentagon that would rank higher here just because of the hardcore stipulation over in Impact, and then at Fight Club Pro, the intensity of that match. But it was actually Phoenix who impressed more overall. He was throwing himself into some crazy bumps, some incredible offense, using that aerial expertise to pull off some just fantastic hardcore spots. So as I say, I would totally recommend going and checking out Fight Club Pro's on-demand service, and also Impact have just launched a new on-demand service. There's a free trial there. If you want to get back into Impact, I would say that now is a really, really good time. There's a free trial, which certainly helps. Go and check out the main event of Rebellion. It was really fun. So congratulations to both Pentagon and Phoenix for picking up some of Jack's points. I cannot wait for their match against the Young Bucks at Double or Nothing. That could be the standout match of the show. Maybe not from a storyline perspective, but from an in-ring standpoint, it's going to be unreal. Number 5, I've been dreading this, was hoping you wouldn't be on the list. It is, of course, Will Osprey. Jack's not even in the office, and he's still giving him points from afar. He's not going to let you suck him off, Jack. He's got a girlfriend. They're probably going to get married. They've got those ugly little dogs that people seem to love. I'm kidding. Pugs are very, very nice. And in fairness to Will, he had a great match this week. Osprey faced Dan Maloney at Fight Club Pro, and just like his match with A-Kid in Spain, he proved that he's not just this young up-and-comer anymore. He's now the guy that is able to make stars. Although he got all of his signature offense in, this was a great performance from Osprey and really sold Dan Maloney as the stronger, the physically tougher of the pair. Osprey was able to pick up the win, and he undoubtedly has some great matches in the very near future with New Japan's Best of the Super Juniors coming up. Points ahoy. And on a personal note, I just want to kind of congratulate Will, because many thought that his time in the Pacitti Club would be the highlight of his career, but actually he's continued to impress, which I would say none of us saw coming. Taught him everything he knows, and it's a testament to what a great listener Will is, that he was able to take so much from me. Number 4 now, picking up 7 whole points. It's Will Ospreay's opponent from that Fight Club Pro match, Dan Maloney. You may remember Dan Maloney from his brief time in the NXT system. He was a participant in the first ever NXT UK Championship tournament, where it was he had a real shady past, and it was sort of implied that he'd killed someone. And then he was knocked out in the first round by Mark Andrews. Nothing wrong with Mark Andrews, but I would say that there's one thing that's really missing from NXT UK at the moment, and that's real characters. And Dan Maloney seemed to have that. NXT UK seems to just be full of guys who are big, strong, and tough, and they'll beat you in the wrestling. But Dan Maloney, there was something special about him. So it's good to see that he's continuing his journey in professional wrestling and still impressing, picking up those sweet-ass points. As I say, this was a star-making match. Once again, all thanks to Will Osprey. This put him on the map more than anything that WWE did with him, and that speaks volumes. There were lots of great moments in this match. One of my favourites, perhaps not the flashiest of moments, was Dan Maloney just shrugging off the hardest chops that Will Osprey could give him. As I say, Osprey made him look like an absolute star. Even though Dan Maloney lost, this did so much for him. It'll be really exciting to see if Dan Maloney can keep that momentum going. Fingers crossed. It's time to talk about All Japan's Champion Carnival, the equivalent of New Japan's G1 Climax. At number 3 is a man who had a great showing in that tournament. His name is Jake Lee. The Champion Carnival concluded this week, and Jake Lee made it all the way to the final, where he squared off against his former tag partner. We will get to him in a little bit. And this was, I think it's fair to say, a breakout performance. It was intense, it was hard-hitting, it was back and forth. It was just a really good match. And it wasn't even just the final that was great. Jake Lee was great throughout the tournament. He's 30 now. He seems a lot younger, and he's had recent injury issues, and a guy who's his career's never really taken off in perhaps the way that it should have. So it'll be interesting to see if getting to the final of this tournament, as well as the standout matches that he's had, will assist in pushing him up that ladder a little bit. This could be the start of a promising resurgence for Jake Lee. The night before the final, he qualified for that final in a match against our next man, number 2, Naoya Nomura. Nomura didn't win the tournament. He didn't even make it to the final, so why is he placed above Jake Lee here? There's a bit of a story at play. Nomura is just 25, and he's seen by many as the next ace of All Japan. He has tremendous resiliency, fighting spirit, and is generally just great in the ring. You could argue that he should have made it to the final. He battled to a great win against Suwama, which meant that he was level points with Jake Lee. He'd already beaten Jake Lee earlier in the tournament, so those two had to wrestle again. Jake Lee, of course, coming out on top. But that match against Jake Lee was immediately after Nomura's win, meaning that Jake Lee was the far fresher man. Nomura battling with courage and pride, but didn't manage to do it. Jake Lee, of course, advancing to the finals. But a great story told, and one which may see Nomura receive a future title shot. It feels like he deserves that at this point. So congratulations to Double N for picking up those big 9 points, but nothing could come close to this week's number 1, AJ Hazard. What a week it has been for the best ever in the world. Recently announced as AEW's latest signing, his return vignette amassed 1.2 billion views in just under 6 hours. It's been called the biggest signing since Hulk Hogan to WCW by Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. I cannot wait to see what he does next. 10 points doesn't even seem enough for this superstar veteran, which is why Jack has decided to cease Wrestlers of the Week from this point, because the number of points that would be awarded to AJ Hazard means that the rest of the show would be utterly redundant. There would be no point in continuing with this series. So congratulations to AJ Hazard for becoming this week's Wrestler of the Week, this month's Wrestler of the Month, this year's Wrestler of the Year, this millennium's Wrestler of the Millennium. Roll the league table! Roll the league. I'll do it properly. This week's number 1 is Kento Miyahara. Kento Miyahara is the current champion of All Japan. He is fresh-faced, cocky, sort of reminiscent of New Japan's Okada, but wrestles at a slightly faster pace, perhaps it's fair to say. He's obscenely talented. Loves a running knee, loves a bridging German, had 2 fantastic matches this week. First off, defeating Yuji Okabayashi, I believe it's pronounced, last week's Wrestler of the Week to qualify for the final of the Champion Carnival, and then of course defeating Jake Lee in the final to become the first champion to win that tournament since I think 2001. Champions don't tend to win this, so it's very clear that All Japan think very highly of their current top dog. Bright things in the future for this man. So let's take a look at the league table. Osprey retakes the lead from Kofi Kingston. He now leads by 5 points. Kento is up from 4th after another Wrestler of the Week performance. Everything else in the top 25 remains the same, but the best of the Super Juniors is around the corner, which should give opportunities to the likes of Osprey, Skrull, Bandido, and Dragon Lee. You know what? Scroll back up. Let's do this properly. Let's take a look at the league table.
Big Willie Double K, Johnny Wrestling Kento J, Matthew's boyfriend Kota Trevor, his name's Ricochet. Okada, Packer, Naito, Dream Ace, Brian, Vegan, Psycho, Moody, Ali, Hunter's Pally, Devlin, Adam Cole. That's how you do the rankings. Ignored half the table, where the hell was Sable? Jack's coming back, don't worry. He's at the bus station doing masturbation.
Just roll the end card. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. You can follow us on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.